our new
Netball Natter mugs that we both gifted each other for Christmas and ended up giving each other basically the same ones. But they've had their first outing finally.
First outing,
yes.
Yeah. I love them.
I think they're cute. They
got our faces on.
Yeah, they're adorable. And then stay tuned because we'll have the next combo, although you did it right, so we have a left and a right one, so when we cheers you can see our faces. I messed up and I basically didn't spend the extra quid.
I love my one.
Getting it sorted so you could do the cling.
I love my one. I think it's
unique.
Yeah, and if you want to get your own, I'm joking. We're not.
We're not that big time.
We're not that quite. Yeah, but if you want to, let us know.
We can produce
we'll see what we can do. Oh, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while since we've sat down and
had a good old natter.
We've done like interviews with people, which has been great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while since we've just sat and chatted.
Yeah. And we've been looking forward to talking about like the team announcements. I know that they were released last year, but we wanted to wait kind of to the build up until the Super League starts basically, and the Super Cup, isn't it, which is on the 8th.
And good job we did wait, because there's been a few changes since the announcement. So I mean, I guess we could just jump straight into it, unless you had anything else to add.
Let's do it.
Perfect. 2025 has launched a big new thing of that there's only now 8 teams rather than 10, and it's all kind of in the movement of trying to make it more of a competitive league. There's less actual squad members, so now it's only a squad of 10, which used to be a squad of 12 and 3 training partners. So it's a real big mix up for the team and a different way of training, but all kind of in the way to move forward with the professionalisation of the sport and just making it more competitive. We saw teams in the last season kind of winning by miles, and then others that you kind of just would assume wouldn't do that well. So by doing this, they've kind of, increased that sort of competitiveness within each team and within the teams as well, which I'm really liking. I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I think it was obviously a shame to lose some of the clubs, and I'm sure they were really disappointed. I think like Bath, for example, was one that I'd seen a bit about how a lot of university students might have picked Bath because of the pathway they had into, they were hoping, the professional kind of team. So obviously it's disappointing for the clubs that missed out, but I guess change needed to happen as part of this process. So the clubs have been selected, but I do think, as to your point, it's hopefully going to make it really competitive. I do think in the previous seasons, I think it's very easy to spot who the top 2 and 3 clubs were going to be, who was going to be in the middle and who was going to be at the bottom. So I think this is really nice, and it's obviously comes alongside this with lots of changes and movements of players and developing players coming through into the squads. You've mentioned and alluded to some of the injuries that have recently been announced and the impact that this is having. So let's jump straight in, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to kick off with London Pulse. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Pulse?
I think they've kind of kept a lot of their players, which is good because it's kind of, they knew it was working. I'm very excited to see one of their new signings, which is Sophie Kelly, coming from Bath.
Yes.
And she will be replacing, well, what I think will be replacing Berry Neal in sort of that goal attacker position. I think it will be very interesting to see her connection with Liv Sheen. Yeah. Because Berry and Liv's relationship was so good. I was watching old games because I'm such a nerd. But they're just like, they just know where each other are. And if one goes out of the circle, the other one's already in, or, you know, making their way in. So that's going to be really interesting. And I think also, I remember Sophie Kelly being a very good long bomb shooter, which obviously with the new Super Shot coming in, I think she's going to be a real asset to London Pulse. So yeah, really excited to see that.
Definitely. And they've also had some new additions coming in as well. So they've had Tyler, who's come over from Australia, I believe, from the Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on her?
Well, I think she's going to have the experience being in the Super League in Australia, knowing how to sort of defend, and she's a mid-court player, so how to feed those balls into the shooters and things. So I think she's going to bring a real sort of good dynamic. And also I think Thunderbirds were always quite in the best way, quite an aggressive side, and I think London Pulse is always very kind of routine. They know the movements that they're going to do, and although they've got, you know, Fumi in there being the defensive queen, but I think maybe a bit of like rough and a bit, you know,
a bit more raw.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So I think she'll elevate the team as well. So excited to see that.
And then, as you said, they've kept quite a few of the players from last season. Obviously, Nicole as well, I think could be interesting to see, because she slotted more into, I think sometimes she came as an impact player, sometimes in that goal attack position, but typically she would be on the wing attack.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got Alicia in there as well. So be interesting to see with Sophie Kelly coming in, who I'd say maybe has a very similar style in terms of I would say similar to Nicole in some ways, in terms of she does a lot of upfront work and then feeds in.
Which you could argue so did Berry. So
yeah.
I think she will slot in very easily.
Yeah.
I think it's just getting that relationship with Liv
definitely
to grow. So yeah, excited for London Pulse. The next team we're looking at is Nottingham Forest. Now obviously this is one of the new teams that has come to the Super League, which, oh my goodness, we're a big fan of, mainly because Chelsea Pittman is head coach. She's fab. She's great.
Yeah, it was great to see that Chelsea as a player has now got the opportunity to move into the coaching side of things. We were saying we would love to get an episode with her and understand what the coaching pathway actually looks like, and what does the interview process look like? How do you kind of get through that? So yeah, it's amazing that obviously she's then had to come from a player perspective and not from that coaching background, where she might not necessarily have the connections with some of the agents to kind of put in the players. But I think what she's got is a really, really strong team. So you've got Rhea Dixon joining over from Loughborough Lightning. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how she fits into the lineup from a shooting perspective.
Mid-court, you've got Brie Grierson,
yes,
who, again, when she was at Pulse, she was a bit of a speedy whip-hit around centre court, so I think she's going to bring some dynamic. A little sort of shout-out from someone we were speaking to recently. Neve Cooper, she is not only an incredible netball player, but she's also an A&E nurse. Like, her full-time job is an A&E nurse.
Incredible.
And I think sometimes we do sort of overlook the fact that these players have lives outside netball, you know, and they have to deal with like trauma being on a daily basis. So yeah, little shout out to her. Obviously she's a great netball player, as we say, but just amazing that, you know, balancing those two lives is impressive. And then looking in the defensive lineup, you've got Natasha Pavlin and Jada Pekova, both coming from Team Bath. So again, kind of building that relationship, building what they had in the previous season, seeing how they work together. So very new team, obviously. Yeah. There's other than those two, there's not really many people that have sort of played together. So it's all about relationships and kind of gelling together in a netball team. So I do think they may be or could be seen to be on the back foot compared to someone like a Manchester Thunder or a Loughborough Lightning. But yeah, super exciting to see them play. So yeah, that's one to look out for.
Birmingham Panthers is one that I am very excited for. I think they've got a really, really strong shooting end. So they have had some new signings kind of coming over. So you've got Gabby Sinclair as one that I really want to call out. So Gabby used to play over in the Suncourt Super Netball. She was part of the Melbourne Mavericks. Yeah, thank you. And she was brought in off because of injuries with kind of players in the Mavericks team. she actually then started to become an impact player and then started to secure her kind of starting position on that team. She used to play with the Dragons, I believe, and then went to the Mavs and now is coming back over. And I think she is going to be a real dark horse for the Super Shot, because I think she got like MVP as well in the Mavs for how impactful she was and how many games she drew back or won for them with that Super Shot. So I think Birmingham have got a real head start on having a player that has dealt with the pressure and not cracked. She's like excelled in those moments. So I think she will be incredible to watch on court, and understanding the tactics behind when to use the Super Shot and when not to use the Super Shot as well.
Something to note as well, they signed Gabby Sinclair before they knew the Super Shot was going to be introduced to this league. So I really think they've lucked out here.
Oh my God, if I was like the Birmingham Panthers, I'd be so happy.
Another one to mention that's come over from the Aussie League is Gabby Kofi, who was training partner for the Melbourne Vixens. I love the Vixens. I think they're great. You've obviously got Kira Austin out there. You've got other great players. But yeah, so I think she's going to bring some intel into kind of like the Super Shot, how to defend that, how to work around that, as well as Gabby Sinclair as well. Something to highlight with the Birmingham Panthers is that a lot of them are from 7 Stars. Like 6 of the players, 6 of the 10 squad is from Stars. And I think that's, although they're one of the new teams, you're going to already have those relationships between the team members. So that's going to be good to see.
Definitely in that attacking end, they've got a lot of the same players. So, well, do you know what? Even in defence as well, to be fair. I mean, I've just seen like Jazz Brown as well. Like I remember seeing her last season and she was just phenomenal. So I'm really intrigued to see under head coach Joe what impact that she's been able to have with her and how she's able to kind of develop her even more as a player. But like thinking about that shooting end, you've got Siggy Berger in there, Betsy in there, Gabby Sinclair, your fave Jess as well, Jess Shaw. She had her debut as well. So
again, playing against the Australian players, working out, although the Super Shot hasn't been introduced to international games, I do think that getting that exposure to those kinds of players, Jess will be able to sort of bring that
in.
Which will be exciting.
Very exciting.
So,
Mavericks.
London Mavericks, who, as you mentioned earlier, before we started filming, they've kind of had a massive rebrand.
And I'm loving the colours. I love the vibrant blue. I'm really here for it. And I think what's quite nice is we've got some really clear, distinct colours, obviously deliberately done, or I'd hope it would be. So you can really easily spot the teams and get the merch and get involved with kind of the whole experience of netball now, which is really exciting. Anyone jumping out to you on there that you're looking out excited for?
I'm loving... So I always love Ellie Ratu. I think she's great.
Oh, she's so good,
I love her. I think Izzy Phillips, again, another Pulse player who is a very young player, and I think was only just starting to show her potential at Pulse. She's incredibly defensive. I think she plays wing defence.
Quite aerial as well.
Yeah, a just really exciting player to watch, and I do think this is very much like the start of her career, and she'll just develop, obviously alongside Ellie Ratu. Another mention I would say is Emma Thacker.
I was going to say her as well.
She obviously went from Loughborough to London Mavs, and obviously is still in this team, but she's also just been called up for the England Roses.
Very
for
exciting.
A reason which we will touch on later. But I think she's going to be, she's going to see that opportunity and just go for it. So that's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and I think it's been nice to see Emma's confidence really start to come through and how she's really started to excel. I guess at Lightning, I don't think she had always had that court time to kind of show off what she was capable of, and I think Mavs was a really good strategic decision by her to get that court time, enable her to try out some of those different positions and prove what she can kind of do on the court, and I think she's really starting to shine and come into that element. So again, another the lineups are getting like stronger and stronger as we go. It's getting harder and harder
but that's
to pick.
what we want the competitiveness.
Yeah, definitely.
We want like close draws like you see in the Australian League. You know, some games are down to to literally one goal.
Or draws in some cases, yeah.
And so I do think that's really going to
elevate the game.
Happen, in this league. So Cardiff Dragons.
Yeah, again, looking forward to the Dragons. I think they've retained quite a lot of their team.
Yeah.
And they've had a couple of subtler changes, I think, with some Bath players coming in.
Yeah, so you got Bethan Dyke, who was captain of the Bath team. So I think she'll bring sort of a leadership to the sort of centre court.
Yeah.
Also, I know she was part of Cardiff Dragons before. Leah Middleton. I just love her as a defensive player.
Yeah, really
and I do think
strong.
that sometimes she's not given enough credit because she does work so well in the circle as a goalkeeper alongside Jackie Newton. Great
strong.
defensive team there. And also another one that you've got, Elle McDonald, although she's been in the UK for a couple of seasons now, she was over at Thunderbirds
I didn't know that.
in Australia. Yeah, and so again has exposure to the super shot, being centre court, mid court. She's going to know sort of how to work that around the circle.
Yeah.
And again, just another sort of person to bring insight into the tactics behind the super shot.
Yeah.
Some of the top teams in the Australian League don't necessarily use it.
Yeah.
But maybe, we could see something different evolving in this league. Which is exciting.
And then you've got Alex Johnson coming over from Lightning as well, which is nice into the defensive kind of lineup. Yeah. And then I think you've got Philippa and Georgia, who are your kind of goal attack, goal shooter combo. I think a pretty classic combo that you expect to see from them. One that's well rehearsed, well oiled, works really well. And I really liked Philippa. I think last season I thought she came out really, really strong and was really nice to see. She reminds me of a Tippett Dwan a little bit in terms of her movement. She's very whippy, very strong on the drives, very quick to jump in and out. So I'm excited to see kind of like how she's again progressed with the professionalisation, changes that have been kind of made as well under the head coach as well. So exciting.
I think she's going to be an asset when it comes to a super shot. I think she's always enjoyed the long bombs. Yeah. And so now being able to gain 2 points out of that rather than one.
Would that throw them up in the leaderboard?
Exactly.
Who knows? Because they had finished really strong as well, didn't they, last season? So it'd be interesting to see where they finish up.
Yeah. Manchester Thunder. So this team is really exciting.
Yes.
Which when you first look at it, you're kind of like, well, nothing's really changed, because they have continued with most of in fact, all of their players bar one.
Yeah.
Which is Nicholas Smith, has been from Manchester Thunder. We've seen a few people like Emma and Aaliyah be elevated from Pathways in Manchester. So again, you're going to have those connections that you're going to have the Manchester way of doing things, the Thunder way of doing things. So that's going to be really exciting, and seeing how Nicholas Smith kind of fits into that defensive lineup is going to be exciting. However,
we're missing Imo in here as well, which is
going
over to Firebirds, but very exciting opportunity for her. And then I think we've got some strong contenders that are going to come in to start to fill the shoes. But I think this is where, as a head coach, you have to be so much more selective with the types of players that you're looking for. You need a lot more diversity with your players, and not just necessarily like a specialist wing attack. You might need a wing attack that can swing to a centre, maybe a goal attack or something as well, because you don't have the depth that you used to have in your squads. So it was interesting to see that they took over a Nicholas Smith, who is goal defence, goalkeeper only, because I think they've got the strong centre court that can then start to swing out, because you've got obviously Amy Carter that can kind of swing out, you've got Taylor that can also start to swing out, and Eli as well. So you've got lots of flexibility in the wing, which might have been a strategic decision by them to be like, we don't need another potential centre court, we need the specialist in the circle defence.
Absolutely. I was going to mention obviously Nat Metcalf.
Yes.
Congratulations to her, obviously. But she will be out for the full season. She's already stated. And so I believe Karen Gregg is currently trying to find a replacement for Nat, and also Lois, unfortunately.
Gutted to hear about that, because she had such a strong games against Australia, New Zealand, Jamaica, and I think that put her on the map.
Yeah.
I think she was already a well-known player, but in those series she just stood up against the best of the best, and she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So obviously we were gutted when we saw that tweet come out to say that she's out with injury. They didn't really go into too much detail, so we don't know how long it's going to be or what's going to happen to her. But we wish her a speedy recovery, because we are going to miss her, and I think Karen is going to be missing her from that lineup, because they are now down a shooter and they're left with Vanderbilt and Paige Reed.
Yeah, very big shoes to fill.
Yeah, good luck to whoever they find. I'm sure they will find a talent.
Well, Karen's going to find someone, isn't she? But real big loss there.
But even still, I mean, looking at that lineup, there are some big names in there. And yeah, I think I would be terrified coming up against that lineup still, even without, some of the big names like the Lewises.
Yeah, absolutely. Leeds Rhinos. I love Jiva Mentor. Can I just put that
Jiva coming in strong again. I think she'll really
good.
be a strong leader, as you'd expect, on the court, and we'll be able to provide some of that coaching to some of the other players. Are there any other standouts for you from this team? Obviously, you've got Manchester, Ella moving over.
Yeah, no, she'll be good. I'm excited, and pointing out another attacking player, which is not like me. Bethany Britton, who used to be Beth Dix at Surrey Storm.
Nice.
She's come to Leeds Rhinos. I, again, was watching old games because I'm such a nerd. She is such a good wing attack, and maybe this is why I've pointed her out. She's such a defensive wing attack, and again, maybe that's why I love Jess Shaw, because she's very kind of like Jamie Lee Price kind of vibe. She, if she loses the ball, if the team loses the ball, she is the first one to go hard for those intercepts, or be first for hands over ball. So she's definitely one that I'm going to be watching. And
she was a former Surrey Storm, so nice to see Surrey Storm players starting to come in and get some of those opportunities on the court as well.
Well, you've also got Rosie Harris, who was also Surrey Storm. So again, you'll have those connections. She's a mid-court player as well. So just seeing those sort of joining team members to see how that goes through the court.
And I think they've got quite a mixture of experience and some new young blood players that are starting to come through. So I think it'd be quite nice that they've got the Jivas to look up for that are kind of really experienced in the league, and then you've also got some of these rising talents that are also starting to come through the ranks as well. So it's quite a diverse team in that sense, terms of experience on the court, which is nice to see.
And then final team, which is the champions of the Super League.
Lightning.
Which, again, not many changes.
No.
You've got, obviously, Berry Neal coming in as the shooter.
How do you think that's going to work? And also because you've got Sam Wallace-Joseph as well from Australia. Yeah. Obviously, there was quite a bit of controversy around this with the Australian League and abruptly kind of leaving the Swifts. I don't think we ever fully got to the bottom of what happened and why that happened, but I think it's really nice. Obviously, I have no idea what has happened behind closed door, but I do think it's nice that she's got the opportunity to come in and play within the league. And I'm intrigued to see with her experience. I think it might be quite a nice positive thing for Berry to have as well, as someone that's obviously a Rose's player. She's had multiple caps, but I still think it's quite nice for her to come up against and play with a Sam Wallace-Joseph, because I think she will provide a new, fresh perspective, the Australian kind of way. Swifts, which are very, very well-oiled, won multiple championships. I think that will benefit Berry massively, and then obviously Ella Clark as well, with her traditional basketball style. I think it'll be interesting to see who starts to step up and take some of those long bombs. Would they bring Ella in as an impact player for the long bombs? Do they start her on court? So it'd be interesting to see. You've got three very, very strong shooters.
I was going to say Ella's going to be one of the people that I'm looking out for and excited to see her, because even in the previous season, she would kind of receive the ball on the edge of the circle, see that no one was free, kind of was like, no, okay. And the shots were beautiful. Yeah. They were so casual. The way she just flings it up and it just goes in, and she's like, oh yeah, easy.
2-pointer.
So
Done.
Yeah, so that's going to be really exciting to see. And then obviously we've got Van der Merwe in defence coming from Manchester Thunder. So
it's interesting they've done like a bit of a switch there as well.
With
but
Nicola Smith.
The difference with her is she's a goal defence, wing defence. So obviously I think that maybe Lightning was feeling that they've got a lot more of the squad is probably a little bit more circle heavy in terms of kind of depth. So I guess she brings another option for them because of the limited squad sizes that she can swing out to the wing. And we've seen her at Manchester play on wing D quite a bit as well. And I think she really excelled of that flying kind of intercept kind of vibe. Yeah. So that'll be good. And then obviously you've got the Beth Cobdens in there as well that's going strong. Yeah, Alice Harvey, Hannah Joseph, Nat Panagari, the big names that you associate with Loughborough Lightning have stayed. So I think you'll have that consistency coming through the court, which will be nice. Yeah. And then the addition of Berry and Sammy, I think, will just be, really interesting to see from the attacking perspective.
So, calling it early.
Oh, God, I know.
I think it's so hard as well because it's going to be such a different league in terms of, although they're all pretty much still the same players. Yeah. I think the introduction of the super shot, just like the intensity is going to go up massively. Yeah. I do think it's going to be a really hard one to judge. But who do you think, or what teams are in your top? Now, bearing in mind there's only 8, who would you say is in your top 3?
So I'm having a bit of flick through because we're recording this. We're then going to go to the Super Cup kick-off and then we're going to give you our predictions after that for the season as to where we think everyone's going to finish. So for me, having not seen these teams play together and gel together, we haven't watched any of the pre-season stuff. Yeah. I think, for me, my top 3, I think Loughborough Lightning and I think Sammy, Berry and Ella are going to work really well together. And it's also Loughborough Lightning. I think they've had the win from the last season. I think they're going to be coming in strong. Birmingham Panthers is my other team because I think Gabby Sinclair, Jess Shaw, Seeberger and Jazz Brown in defence for me are some of the players that I think are just phenomenal and I think they are really going to accelerate in this year. And then who else do I want to say? It's tricky because the rest, they're the 2 that stand out the most. I would say maybe a Pulse. Oh, it's hard. Nottingham Forest obviously got strong. I'm looking through them all and I'm like,
it's so hard.
I'm going to go for a curveball.
Okay.
I think Manchester would have been up there for me, but we don't know who the players are coming in are. And I do think that is a big loss to them. I still think that they will have a really strong team, but I might go for a curveball. I'm intrigued to see what the Dragons end up doing because they were really strong last season. Yeah. They've had some new additions that kind of come in to give a little bit of creativity, and I think I'm here for an underdog. I really want them to do well.
Do we know that they're an underdog?
Maybe they're not an underdog. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I think I would say my top 2 that I think will do really well is Lightning and Panthers, and then I think the Dragons got a little bit of spice in there. Just to be a bit different. What are you going to go for?
Well, I would say the Panthers. I'm excited to see that.
Snap.
I do think Pulse is so strong, and I do think towards the end of last season they just grew and grew and grew. Yeah. So I think for me, my top 2 would be Birmingham Panthers, London Pulse, and
you're going to go for a different one in there as well?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think London Mavericks as well.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm just putting that.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's so hard not knowing.
You know some of the players and how they combine together, but it's also like there's new faces in there, and it takes a bit of time for some of those connections to make in. I know they've been doing like pre-season training, so they've spent that time together, but I don't think you really get to like grasp it until you see them on the court and see how they bond and gel together. Yeah. So who do you think is going to win on the Super Cup if you have to pick a team?
Birmingham Panthers.
Oh, I was going to go for them. Okay, I think, we've got to keep this spicy. I'm going to go Loughborough Lightning then.
Okay. Okay.
Back the Lightning again. Love Brigel.
Well, I guess in 3 months' time we will find.
Yeah. Well, this is just for the Super Cup,
for the Cup.
and then we can then go and do our actual predictions. I feel like we've got to see what the teams are like before we can then go ahead and make our decisions.
Okay.
Perfect.
Wow.
So stay tuned then, and we will see who wins the Super Cup. Out the two of us, you're back in the Panthers, I'm back in Lightning, and yeah, as always, I guess, give us a follow, tell us what you think. What do you think of our lineups? Who do you think is going to win the Super Cup?
Who are your standout players as well? Who do you think has really grabbed your eye? Who's done well in terms of coaches as well with picking their players? And stay tuned, and we will see you after the Netball Super Cup.
See you soon.